will start with the proposition leader, David Johnson.
If we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. Words of John Dewey, an academic philosopher and an advocate for education. We live in an era of change, advances in technology, healthcare, and science, and yet advancement of education seems to be an idea in the back of our heads. But is it realistic to be rigid? With changing times comes changing environments, changing mindsets, changing students, and changing teaching environments. And therefore, we believe that the use of the internet can positively enhance the quality of education. And before we start, we must define a few terms. Firstly, education is the sum total of all experiences that the child receives, formally and informally. Life is education, and education is life. Whatever broadens our horizon, deepens our insight, refines our reactions, and stimulates thought and feeling, educates us. To positively enhance means to improve or add to without detriment, and quality education is defined according to United Nations Children's Education Fund in an article entitled Defining Quality Education, includes, among other things, environments that are healthy, safe, and gender sensitive, and provide adequate resources and facilities, content that is reflected in relevant curricula and material for the acquisition of basic skills, processes through which trained teachers use child-centered learning approaches in well-managed classrooms and schools, and skilled assessment to facilitate learning and reduce disparities. And finally, outcomes that encompass knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and are linked to national goals for education and positive participation in society. To support our position, I will address 2 points. Firstly, comprehensive learning. Secondly, social inclusion and competition. And my secondary will address self-sufficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge is constantly evolving. According to Buckminster Fuller, inventor and theorist, knowledge doubles every single year. Internet has a plethora of information and knowledge stored over successive years, bolstering different views and opinions. From news, scientists, sources like Khan Academy, GCSE Science, Crash Course, CNN even, people from news, scientists, etc., sources like Khan Academy, there is no limit to the information you can receive on the internet. Realistically, people learn in different ways and people teach in different ways. So at the end of the day, if left up to just teacher-based teaching, someone is bound to be left out of the equation. On that point, it is important that we establish that proposition does not advocate for the removal of the teacher or the classroom experience, but stands firm that the internet is an additive, an enhancement to achieving quality education worldwide. In fact, a study carried out by the University of Alabama School of Medicine in 2005 found 65% of students learn visually, 30% learn orally, and 5% kinesthetically. Now let's be rational here. A teacher alone cannot effectively cater to each individual student's need, taking into account disabilities, styles, levels of learning, and impairments. But solution to these differences is the use of tools which enhance their education and get the information over to them. And I refer to a report in New York Times in 2008, quoted Sally Shewitz, author of Overcoming Dyslexia and Yale professor, who confirmed that experts suggest that the internet may be a better way to glean information for struggling readers. This is because a child with dyslexia learns visually, orally, and through the use of experience and repetition. The child needs to have information being learned presented in multiple different ways, with simplistic, concise sentences, formatting, and easy access to this information for constant study. All of the necessary information, pictures, and videos are easily accessible on the internet, and students sort this information in a way that best suits them. So if we ever hope to attain quality education, we must cater to each individual student's need, and the internet is the best tool to solve this issue. It is our moral responsibility to pave the road for future generations' success by exploiting the infinite and valuable resource of internet as we seek to enhance quality of education by means of flipped classrooms, where students go home and they read up on the theory on the internet, and then come to school and engage in more practical learning and language softwares and sites for specific needs and other methods. And as we agree that the classroom is a place of more than academics, of molding and of growth, it is important that we engrave in students that we are all different by status, by mindset, or by background. And while the classroom brings a first-hand take on these differences, the perspectives on the internet are much more diverse. The varying interpretations and extent of discussion can not only enhance the quality of education, but foster in learners feelings and emotion, creative thinking, problem-solving skills, and appreciation for cultural diversity. All these good conditions needed for quality education, as listed in the World Education Forum 2015, held by UNESCO. If we teach today what we taught yesterday, we rob our students of tomorrow. Secondly, the point of social inclusion and competition of students in society. As alluded before, we need to produce students who actively participate in society, whose goals are not only of a personal nature, but are fixed on solving key issues that we face in this world. In fact, McKinsey and Company Incorporation, a global management consulting firm that serves leading businesses, governments, and NGOs, in an article entitled Fostering Economical and Social Benefits of ICT, which is Information and Communications Technology, stated their research shows that internet and communication technology industry can potentially contribute to reducing worldwide CO2 emissions by 15%, an enormous contribution. Clearly, therefore, ICT education is leading to advancements in our world and is identified as a solution for critical issues. And if we're not teaching our children to problem solve, to look for all perspectives, to networking with others, to join fights to solve global issues, if we hinder heirs to this world's ability to add voice, if we prohibit them from exploring, comparing, and deriving mindsets, if we rob them of the only medium which supplies them the opportunity to do these things, what is the purpose of education? If we are to encourage students to compete in this world, we must promote the use of internet in education, as it is the gateway to research, change, economic prosperity, and a better world. We need to prepare students to compete in a more challenging and technological world, and the way we teach them to compete, to have a say, to be socially viable, is by allowing them to network and share opinion on social media. Where do I find it? On the internet. Thank you.
Now we will have the Leader of the Opposition, Brittany Williams.
Honorable judges, proponents of the moot, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We have been asked to consider the moot. Internet access enhances the quality of education. We argue that the moot needs considerable qualification as it leaves major questions unresolved. Questions about appropriate application of technology, effective incorporation in instructional methods, digital inequality, and what exactly constitutes quality education. In this context, we remain circumspect, as the moot amounts to a banal assertion. Does internet use actually enhance or increase the quality of education? The results of quantitative scholarly studies have consistently revealed that there is no correlation between internet use and an enhancement in the quality of education. Technology is very important, but the moot ignores the fact that the research diligently warns against presuming that internet use can impact the quality of education. Let us first consider the basic definitions of the moot. According to the Oxford Dictionary 2011, education is defined as a process of teaching, learning, and training, especially in schools or colleges, to improve knowledge and develop skills. Quality here refers to a distinctive attribute or characteristic akin to excellence, particularly when measured against other things of a similar nature. The Internet, developed in the 1970s, is a global computer network, providing a variety of information and communication facilities. It consists of interconnected networks using standardized communication protocols. But these definitions require further exploration. If we can accept that education should, according to Neil Postman, author of The End of Education, 1995, instill a sense of global citizenship among students, foster critical thinking, problem-solving, self-direction skills, encourage healthy intellectual skepticism, and celebrate the plurality and diversity of humanity, then we must agree that an indisputably high quality of education existed long before the 1970s when the Internet was created. Who are the opponents? How else do you explain the great discoveries and accepted scientific theories of, say, Galileo, Euclid, and Albert Einstein? Moreover, how do we account for the profound critical thought behind inspirational works from the pain of oppression? I refer, for example, to Eric Williams' 1944 book, Capitalism and Slavery, and the oeuvre of Robert Nesta Marley. Ladies and gentlemen, much can be exaggerated about internet use in discussions about education and technological applications. Whatever my opponents may say, multiple studies draw the conclusion that there is a negative relationship between computer use and learning. Lodgman Wussman and Thomas Fuchs, in their 2004 essay, Computers and Student Learning, found that home computers distract students from effective learning, and that the results were inconclusive for school computers. They also found that there is no relationship between computer availability or internet use and student test scores. Distinguished judges, Mark Dinarski et al., in their 2007 report to Congress entitled Effectiveness of Reading and Mathematical Software Products, advised that improving teaching methods is more important to education than adding technology. This follows research conducted by Patricia DeBull in her 2001 contribution to the Journal of Research on Technology. She affirms that educators need to think in a systematic way about how and when to incorporate a new pedagogical strategy, including media, into instruction. Cosma argued that it is not the medium, but instructional methods that cause learning. And the finest of such methods take into account the diversity of students, educational backgrounds, and their preferred methods of learning. Altogether, this rich vein of research exposes the banality of supporting the MOOC. My colleague will address the question of internet access, including inequality among persons with formal access to internet, issues that we believe deserve additional attention. Ladies and gentlemen, by now it should be clear that we do not fetishize internet use, nor do we have a panglossial view of technology. As put by Postman, 2005, all technological change is a Faustian bargain. Each change is filled with good and ill. Accordingly, we learned that, 1, the advantages and disadvantages of internet use are never distributed evenly among the population, a point my colleague will further explore. 2, technology adds to the cost of education. And 3, communication via computers actually undermines interpersonal skills. We endeavor to continuously expose the naive association between internet use and positive education outcomes. On behalf of the opposition, I thank you.
I will now invite the proposition seconder, Chloe Walker.
Education is not static. It is a social construct, constantly evolving based on the level of education needed for the adults in a society. Today, I will discuss in my first substantive how incorporating the use of the internet into education will revolutionize learning in our society by teaching self-sufficiency. However, gentlemen, before we get into the substantive, I would like to look at some rebuttal. The first speaker of side opposition firstly looked to define education as a process of teaching and learning to develop skills. However, I must respond and say that if these skills are so important, we need to take into consideration the fact that 50% of jobs require computer skills in this technological era, and subsequently, the very purpose of education would become null and void if people being taught in our schools are not prepared to fulfill the needs and requirements of those jobs. Secondly, the speaker spoke of instilling global citizenship and critical thinking skills. That will be further addressed in my substantive. Thirdly, they spoke of preferred methods of learning. However, we already identified in the first speaker of side proposition that someone will be left behind in the equation, and therefore by integrating the use of internet into education, we allow for this student that could possibly be left behind to go on the internet and gain the knowledge that they may not have understood in class due to their ability or level of competency not being compatible with those also in that class. Lastly, they spoke of technology and computers adding to the cost of education. However, we already know that we are not here to debate technology and computers. We are here debating the integration of the internet, not technology, into education. Gentlemen, I now present my first substantive, which shows the link between the use of the internet in education and self-sufficiency. 94% of students between the ages of 12 and 17 years old use the internet to expand on materials taught in class. 53% of adult internet users have gone online for school or work-related training, and an average of 5% of college students have obtained college credits online. That amounts to 5 million people furthering their studies on the internet. These statistics, all obtained from an online article by Pew Research Center, tells us three things. 1, the internet gives a voice to the quietest of students. 2, it is the gateway to education for all. And 3, it affords the opportunity for all students to have the same quality and level of education based on their work ethic and not their level of learning competency. John Dewey said in his writing entitled Individual Psychology and Education, any education is in its forms and methods an outgrowth of the needs of the society in which it exists. 55% of parents believe it is necessary to integrate the use of the internet into learning, as it is so crucial for effectively functioning in the workplace and everyday life, according to Pew Research Center. Who would know better but the adults of the generation before us? Mr. Speaker, it is now expected in this technological era that workers are able to navigate the internet. As previously stated, 50% of jobs, and this percentage will increase as we move and develop more in technology, and that is based on a study done by Iowa State. We cannot disadvantage the children of our generation by not integrating internet into education. The very purpose behind education is formal and informal, and the teaching taking place must, in the words of Ms. Colleen Winter-Brathwaite, facilitate not just the education of the student, but must actually teach them how to learn, how to critically analyze situations in life. People pursuing an education are taught more than just materials in books, but self-discipline, which leads to character, a trait seldomly seen in society, which desperately needs to be reintroduced. And subsequently, if we teach today, as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, education, as we already established, does not only refer to the knowledge garnered from lectures or books, but also from experiences. Take, for example, the art of debating. We do not debate mathematical sequences. However, sociological issues are our topics. And that usually requires an understanding of a topic. That means we have to research on the internet. In fact, I would bet if you asked side opposition where they got their statistics, they found them online, and they had to use the internet in order to educate themselves for this debate. In closing, I wish to use the words of the revolutionary Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education.
I will now invite the opposition seconder, Michaela Harrison-Yard.
Distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen, there can be no doubt about where we stand in this debate. It has been glorious to posit that internet use can positively enhance the quality of education. We argue that pedagogy matters, the teacher's craft, that is what matters. We ask you to consider that scientific knowledge about human learning has a long tradition. It transcends the choice of ephemeral technologies or tools employed in the education process. Now, in the year 2000, Fulham, in a review about educational reform, reminds us that since technology is ubiquitous, the issue is not whether, but how we contend with it. He stresses that as technology becomes more powerful, good teachers become more and more indispensable. Good teachers, he states, and I quote, "Technology generates a glut of information, but it has no particular pedagogical wisdom, especially regarding the new breakthroughs in cognitive science about how learners must construct their own meaning for deep understanding to occur. This means that teachers must become experts in pedagogical design." Ladies and gentlemen, we wish to address the elephant in the room. Yes, we are referring to the digital inequality all linked to internet use. Now, between 1995 and 2000, a cottage industry of books, articles, and conferences all addressed the issues about the digital divide, meaning whether or not a person had the means to connect to the internet if he or she so chooses. So with the creation of handheld devices combined with various modes of communication, access has become more widespread. However, what concerns us in this debate is the new vein of research into digital inequality in equipment, autonomy, skill, support, and the scope of the use among students and people who are already online. Now, we refer to two publications representative of this thrust. Firstly, we have Paul DiMaggio et al. In 2004, and this chapter was called "The Social Implications of Internet." Then we have Patricia Lay's 2007 anthology entitled "The International Exploration of Technology, Equity, and the Digital Divide." Now, I take the issues that they raise in turn. Firstly, there is the inequality of technical apparatus. As bandwidth increases and more websites require browsers to display Java applications, sophisticated graphics, or streaming audio or video, users without access to these expensive systems found it difficult to access the full range of internet content. Then there's the inequality and autonomy of use. How much control do people exercise over their use of the web? The studies found that among persons with internet access, significant intergroup differences exist where that access is at home, as opposed to say at work or at school or libraries or any other community access centers. Where access is outside the home, users experience limited flexibility in determining the hours at which she or he can have access to this internet. In some centers, access is circumscribed by time limits or regulations or even filters and any other technical impediments. Ladies and gentlemen, in the face of this and other concerns about digital inequality, how is it at all possible to speak confidently about internet use and a positive enhancement of the quality of education? For whom? Where are the education studies that inquire into digital inequality imagine and fantasize when the reality presents glaring contradictions. We have been asked by the proposition to embark on a voyage that they refuse to undertake. They have failed to engage or account for those empirical studies proclaiming a dubious association between internet use and the quality of education output. As it stands, internet use cannot positively enhance the quality of education given the digital inequalities. Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case.
I will invite the opposition to ask the leader or seconder of the proposition 5 questions, and this is to last for 3 minutes. This question is posed to the first speaker. Can you cite and share with us any study that draws a correlation between internet use and enhancement of student test scores?
As I would have already stated in my speech, we talked about issues of dyslexia and where people are using the internet as a tool to solve dyslexia. Well, not solve dyslexia, but certainly reduce it and encourage these students to enhance their education.
So you've got figures stating that there was some increase or relative to other students who weren't using the internet. You have that data here?
No.
Okay, thank you. Second speaker? How is knowledge imparted if the internet is an information-based tool?
Well, second speaker, I would have to say that the internet is a fantastic tool simply because it allows for scholarly articles written by people of a higher level of education to impart their knowledge. And to expand on my self-sufficiency point, we are now teaching students using the internet to corroborate facts. So instead of using one site or one article to gain information, we're saying be more self-disciplined, learn to be more analytical, and make sure that at least 3 or 4 sites have the same information. And that is how you gain the reliability of the internet.
Okay, so let's speaker again. Is pedagogical strategy paramount in determining quality education outcomes? Is a pedagogical strategy paramount in determining quality education outcomes?
Could you please?
Is a pedagogical strategy paramount?
Could you define it, please?
Of course not.
Pedagogical. Okay. You define it? You define it? Yes, it is paramount. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. First speaker of the opposition, of the proposition, you mean. How egalitarian is internet access and use? Okay, thank you very much. The cross-examiner of the proposition, David Gittins, I will now invite you to ask 5 questions to the leader or the seconder of the opposition, and this should last for 3 minutes.
How does your model engage students with learning disabilities and varying learning competencies? This is addressed to seconder.
Well, my esteemed colleagues, can you repeat the question, please?
How does your model engage students with learning disabilities and varying learning competencies?
Well, firstly, we must emphasize the point that pedagogy matters. Now, this is where the teacher's craft matters. So when we engage in classroom interaction, there is the physical component. You're able to ask questions, have discussions. You're able to have a real facility, and this is where we have real Socratic teachers, and this is what helps everyone.
Thank you. How will you prepare to prevent students from having myopic thinking if they're only taught by the teacher is secondary?
Well, so distinguish, we do acknowledge that the internet is in fact a tool. However, it is not a master device without which a teacher will feel in his or her obligations to ensure the positive enhancement of education outcomes for all students. And that is it, that is the end of it, and this matter is stubborn and it will not change.
Thank you. So since it is a tool, why should we be using it? To the first speaker.
I love science. Don't you love science? I welcome science. But we're asking if it enhances, and first of all, we're talking about the internet here. We're asking if the internet enhances the quality of education. Quality of education refers to critical thinking.
Thank you. How do you propose that we should prepare students to participate in a highly technological driven society? To the second speaker.
Can you please repeat the question?
How do you propose that we prepare students to participate in this highly technological driven society?
Well, technology is there, it is true. But what matters is how we engage with each other in the classroom. The teachers, we bring it back to the point. Pedagogy matters. And also, what also matters is that the digital inequalities, how can we ensure that everyone can have access to this internet? What about those people?
I will now invite the opposition to give their summary, and this should last for 3 minutes.
Distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen, while our worthy opponents are entitled to their own opinions, they are not entitled to their own facts. We have drawn on multiple studies that have found no relationship between internet use and student test scores. We informed you of the stock observation that quality education is dependent on sound pedagogical design, of which a teacher becomes indispensable. Recall the summary advice we cited by a group of educational experts that improving teaching methods is a more important to education than adding technology. Well, no wonder a group of New York inmates at a maximum security prison defeated Harvard's debate team without the internet. But all of this was lost on our opponents. We were subjected to an add internet use and stir approach. It is therefore not surprising that when we turned our attention to discussing digital inequality, we were greeted with deafening silence. So long as there is inequality in the adequacy of hardware, software, and connections, students and users without access to expensive systems will be disadvantaged. My misguided opponents, you cannot base your arguments on studies related to the elite minority that have access to the internet. It is obvious that the moot is looking at this from an egalitarian perspective. Therefore, my opponents, all this research that you've been spewing at us here today is based on inadequate data, pure speculation. As soon as you did this, you made your entire argument invalid. Worthy opponents, I have no qualms that the internet allows you to access information more quickly and in greater quantities. But does it really enable critical thinking, which is the base of quality education? Let's not get our cues mixed up here. Quickly and quantity do not equate to quality. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, it has been a pleasure. Thank you.
I will now invite the proposition to give their summary, and this will last for 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we the proposition believe that internet use can positively enhance the quality of education. You referred two distinct sides to the argument today, but we have offered you points of comprehensive learning, social inclusion, and competition, and self-sufficiency. Let's take it from the top again. I gave you a definition of education where it said that education is the sum total of all experiences that the child receives, formally and informally. Life is education, education is life. And whatever broadens our horizon, deepens our insight, refines our reactions, and stimulates thought and feeling, educates us. We also told you that internet enhances the quality of education as it promotes comprehensive learning. As there are several learners, it targets visually oriented, orally oriented, and practically oriented learners. Let's not disadvantage any student the opportunity to succeed. We went on to mention that the internet promotes social inclusion and competition. And if we're to educate people, we should prepare them to excel in academics and life itself. And we concluded on the point of self-sufficiency, producing students who are confident, self-disciplined, and educated by means of integrating internet into education. Team opposition tells you to rob our children of a tomorrow, to throw away all the benefits of internet and stand rigid in a time of change. While we team proposition offer you the solution to enhancing the quality of education. And therefore I implore you not to steal from our children, not to limit their success, but to side with team proposition in our conquest to enhance the quality of education by integrating internet into education, thereby facilitating comprehensive learning, promoting social inclusion and competition of students in the society, producing outcomes that encompass knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and encouraging self-sufficiency. Team proposition, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. It was my distinct and tedious pleasure to be your chief judge this afternoon. I'm just here not to give who the winner is, but to lend some points to our teams and our present. Let me first say thanks again, as I said at the beginning, for taking initiative and also taking part in this debate as well. There are many persons who would wish to be where you have been today, but not many persons will get that pleasure. So let me first of all say that we must watch our grammar, we must watch our subject and verb agreement, and we must also watch the way we pronounce words. If we find that there is an issue with pronunciation, we take our time and we pronounce it. Okay, so we had many issues, many hiccups in terms of pronouncing words in the English language today. And there are also losses in translation in terms of some of the words that were used. So let us all try to watch that. If we're going to use words that we may not know, let us all, where possible and when possible, have these words and have a meaning behind them so that other persons can see that we had very good body language today, and this is a very vast improvement on Monday since I was here. And I must say body language is very crucial in debating. From the time you stand and you slouch, or from the time your face shows that you're uncertain as to what you're talking about, chances are you'll be picked upon. And today your body language, your diction, and even the way your vocal variety was, I must say kudos to that, and kudos to teachers for also taking the initiative to make sure that these children got that in place. So overall, that is it from me. Any other pointers I'll be able to give you after. Right now, the drummer is waiting with the drum roll to give you the winner, and I'll turn you right back over to the moderator. Thank you.
With 1,090 points, Harrison College. With 1,114 points, Queen's College. The winners this afternoon, Queen's College.